Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the Technical Trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Saturday, December the 9th, 2023. This is the weekend webinar. Markets enjoyed another solid week and actually had, from what I see here, S&P 500 closing at 4604. That's the first time it's closed above 4600. So it looks like since December of 21. We're looking at a two-year high on markets, in S&P anyway. And you can see that over the last couple, 3 weeks, the index has just trended upward and closing near the highs going away. Note that this high here back in July was 4607. We closed at 4604 with a high of 4609. So either they double top here, or this thing's going to blast and blow. And right now, if you look at individual charts, and I'll show them to you a little later, particularly in the Nasdaq 100 generals, you're going to see some really big setup for a potential blow-off type market. We'll see. They could just as easily fail right here and come down, but these are setup patterns. Look at the S&P 500. This is a V bottom, run up to resistance, form a flag above the moving averages, break away, run up through the highs from September, and run right into the July highs. This is a very powerful move for any stock or index. So let's just see going forward. And also, you're going to see a lot of stocks today that look phenomenal. NDX, Nasdaq 100. Similar pattern, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline from July through November. V bottom, breakaway gap, running gap, platform. The high was reached a week and a half ago at 16,166. Came down to test 15,695 and then run right back up to 16,084. Friday up about 0.4%. The market's really platforming or hanging in there beautifully, and any move through here, I mean, the measure move is phenomenal. Look at this. So a move from 14,000 roughly to 16,100 was 2,100 points. If you put that over here, you're looking at 17,900. Now, I'm not saying we're going up there. There's always that possibility. I'm only going to give you measured moves from when they are up in that range. Would be absolutely 16.9 wouldn't shock me. 16.6 is kind of expected if we break out. Look at that beautiful little cup and handle or platform. That's exactly what that is basically. The NDX is not quite as strong lately, if you notice, and we did get a pullback in the tech stocks to see what they look like, but this is still a very bullish pattern until and if. And take a look. See this gap in here? Well, the pullback low is 15,725. Here was 16.95. So in that 15,700 range is support. And resistance is 16.1. So you have about a 400 or 16,160. So you had a 450 point range. If you add that on here, you're looking at 16.5, 16.6 up here. So that would be the measured move. Small caps really took off in the last month. Take a look at this move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now consolidating. Well, they say coming out of the base is how you coming out of the breaking out is when you first get wave 1. So I'm just going to say this is a 1, 2, 3, and 4 is developing. Fifth wave could take it to 200. I'm not kidding. The prior high here, 191, no 192 range. So I would expect to see 192 and upwards of 200. And look, unless this thing breaks down, of course. But right now, the trend is your friend. Look at the moving averages crossing over and moving up. Typical bullish pattern. Certainly doesn't look like a top. Far from it. Matter of fact, January, February could be huge for small cap stocks after tax loss selling, which I believe has already been done, quite frankly. Okay. The transportations, no slouches. V bottom, cup and handle, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you count it that way. But for me, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 with a fifth wave to 16,000. The high here, 15,961. So somewhere around there. However, out of all the indices, the Dow Jones Transportations had the worst day on Friday, closing down a half a point. We'll see if that matters. If it gets below 15,150, you might test the trend line. We'll have to just see if the transportation is going to lag or not. Okay, so that's a look at that. Now let's take a look at the underlying technicals. The oscillator for the McClellan oscillator is plus 68. Not really extremely overbought, is it? At all. And again, you can't really chart an oscillator. It's either overbought or oversold or neutral. Right now it's neutral. So if the market blows off and this gets up to plus 200 or better, then I would say we are at an extreme level and the market's extremely overbought and ready for a pullback. Right now, that's still to be determined. It doesn't look like it. The percentage of stocks above their 40 is about 70%. So 7 out of 10 stocks are trading above their 40. That's bullish for the market. However, when it gets up into that 85, 90 range, here we got to 81, sorry. I'm thinking of the VIX. 80, 81, that level up in that zone is where we would get more extremely overbought. So if you see the oscillator plus 220, 250, and this gets up in the 80, 82 zone or something like that, then probably you're going to be at a point where you need to do this kind of market pullback. Maybe not yet. Maybe we're a little early in anticipating that. And that's why I talk to people in this room and tell them not to get too bearish too quickly. It doesn't pay to anticipate. It doesn't. What about the VIX? Well, as far as I'm concerned, I would stay away from UVXY, period. Look, this is, I mean, look, I'm just going to show you this. UVXY is one of the dumbest things on a long-term basis I've ever seen. This thing's at reverse split 6, 8, 10 times. I don't know how many times, but it shows that it's gone from 10,000 down to $9, basically because of all the reverse splits. Even recently, it reverse split again. It came down from wherever it was. I think it was like 14 or 15 or 20. Look at this drop just since October the 27th, basically 19 to 9. It's a disaster. And the VIX itself at 12. Now, if you look back historically, this is an area, the lowest level on the VIX we had since early 20 before the market crashed. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's signaling some concern that there's a lot of apathy. People are too bullish. Believe it or not based on their thoughts, based on their actions. Okay, so that's the oscillator. Let's take a look at some of the big ETFs we follow closely. Before I do that, I usually go into the Nasdaq 100 general. So let's do that. Apple. How about this chart? Apple is approaching its multi-year highs, all-time highs actually after a split. Back here in July, Apple tagged 198.23. Folks, we're only 2.5 points from here. So we should test that this week. If it gets through that, we're looking at low 200s, maybe 205. The measure move on Apple is blowout time. About 28 points from here. That gives you about 215, all the way up there. I'm not so bold as to predict that, but I will tell you, wouldn't be a shocker if we had a blow-off stage in the market and Apple led the way. Amazon certainly looks pretty good to me. If you look at this pattern, we had a 3-wave corrective, a V bottom at the long-term channel bottom. Take a look how we connect these two lows right to there. It's breakaway gap. Next day, it goes not only through the declining channel, but up. It closes just a tad above the 50, stalls and breaks out again, runs up into that near 150, and it's consolidating. Now take a look at Amazon. You can't say this is bearish. That's a nice little coil. The measure move on Amazon, I'm not saying that markets have to do measure moves. I'm just saying this is what they are. 31 points from the pullback low. That gives me 170. Right there. So the perfect measure move gets me up to there. If you see Apple blowing out, Amazon blowing out, and all the Nasdaq generals, or most of them, I'll show you the rest. Here's Google. Now Google's different because it had a pretty nasty pullback, but note how this support level way back here, from this highs to these lows, and this gap all held and then bounce. That's a good thing, technically. What else is apparent here? Let's take this line out. You have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. If Google is able to get above the 142 zone next week, it could go right to 151. If that would go along with the rest of the stocks if we're in a blow-off stage. I'm not saying I'm anticipating one. I'm saying if we get one, it'll be led by these stocks. But I want to see Google participate by going back over 142, 2.5, and then we'll see. But it did have a negative day on Friday, down 210, while the market bounced. So we'll see. Google doesn't look bad. It's in a long consolidation mode, and it did bounce above the breakaway gap above the moving averages on Thursday. We'll see what happens there. Microsoft. Now that's a powerhouse chart. The pullback got back to that zone, which is key support for me right here. The 360, it's a stop. Over 374, we got a good shot at bringing back to 384. And then maybe that's the channel angle. 400, how about that? Microsoft, very strong. NVIDIA, good recovery, right off to 50. How about that? So we're taking a look at that and drawing it off there. I'm now looking for this to be a $550 stock. But first, of course, you have to take out quite a bit of resistance. Note that it closed near a 5-day low prior. So there's and a moving average. So if it gets above, say, 480, that's where I think it goes to the 5502 zone, and then we're on our way higher potentially. If the market wants to blow out, NVIDIA should be a leader, but it's got to get through this triple quadruple top area. That's going to be tough going. If it does that, the market will blow. Obviously, NVIDIA is a stop under 450. You don't want to see that. Netflix, certainly a nice tight rising channel, and then a pullback right near the prior high. See these highs back in here, and this gap, this high, this here. Isn't it amazing how often a stock will do that, test and go? However, if Netflix breaks 445, we might see a drop to 425 or worse. I'm going to pull back and do this. Let's say that's your parallel rising channel. Guess where Netflix projects to if it takes out 480? 540, that would be amazing. Not calling for it because this little 4-day pattern could be a bear flag as well. So let's see what happens next week. How about Meta? On my Facebook, of course. Now, that was a little nasty breakdown there. Note that it held right near this zone here. There was a congestion zone. Anyway, we snapped back Thursday, Friday. We closing back above resistance. And now maybe you can count this as a trend. And do a parallel channel, which is what I always do when I'm trying to chart. I'm looking for a run to 355 and 370. That's right. Friday was a big day for this stock as it moved back above the moving averages. We need to see if it follows through though. And it certainly is resistance at the high at 343-ish here. But generally, a double bottom or triple bottom breakout, pull back to test the moving average and then a channel looks pretty positive for Meta as well. And we already talked about NVIDIA. Pulled back to support. I want to talk about Tesla finally. As it appears, even though it's lagging, check this out, everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4 points on this trend line. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Now look at this little mini inverse head and shoulder breakaway gap, retest, fill the gap, and then form a consolidation. Folks, I'll tell you right now, if Tesla goes over 253, we're in a blow-off phase, and this thing will probably go to at least 270, 75, 278. So I'm looking for 30, 35 points up on Tesla if it breaks out, and then we'll see where it goes beyond that. Stop under 226, 225, and you're good to go. So that's a look at the generals. Now let's look at the major ETF for semiconductors, biotech, and financials. The SMH is near a new all-time high. Pretty amazing considering how ugly they looked just a few weeks ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down. Breakaway move above the moving averages. Running gap. Flag. You can see that we get above here. We're looking at a run that could take us to 173.4. In other words, about 10 points. And where's your stop? Keep these in mind, folks. Under 155.6, you probably want to be out of SMH. You could drop down to 151 or test the trend line. at 143. But for me, the trend is your friend. The trend is still up. Look at that channel. Is it possible to go to 200 plus? Yep. If we get a blow up stage, SMH could lead. How about the financials? Well, check out the multiple lows going back a year and a half. Big basis formed. Financials got creamed. They went from 150 down to 50. Lost 2/3 of their value on the FAS. But the declining top sign was broken. A little V bottom with a platform and a breakout above the moving averages as they crossed over. And a nice run up near the prior highs. 75-ish is resistance. You get through that, you're looking at, I'd have to say, let me do something here. Hang on. Yeah, 85.6. So, if we should get a breakout over the July high at 75, we could see 8 to 10 points more. Wouldn't that be something? This market could go into a blow-up stage. And my feeling is, based on what I'm seeing on the small caps, if we do get a blow-up stage, the small caps could fly. There's some really intriguing patterns on low price stocks. I'm going to show you some today. But take a look at this rising channel in FAS. How about that? So between the pop and flag on the SMH and what I just showed you on the FAS, along with the XBI biotech, check this out. So finally, after a 6-month declining channel that took 1, 2, 3, 4 big fifth wave down, popped out, retested, breakaway gap, ran up to resistance, back to fill for a week, formed a flag. The moving averages had a chance to cross over, pop, retest, breakout. I mean, right now, if you see this get over 81, we're looking at 84, 88 for the XBI. So obviously, new uptrends in biotechs, financials, and in my opinion, semiconductors. Why would you call for a market high in here, even though you think it's overbought? But when you look at the decline oscillator, which is comprised of see what it does is it measures intensity in terms of the amount of advances and declines and up-down volume. It's been orderly, and as a matter of fact, after the spike we had in early November, it's been hanging in the 0 to plus 150 range right now, neutral or at plus 68-ish. So that concludes my look at the indices, the technicals, and the major components, as well as some of the ETFs. But there was a few more ETFs to go over. Folks, I just don't like what I see. I am really fed up with gold. I thought after this inverse head and shoulders, we're on our way. But look at the pullback in gold last week. Now, I don't know if it's temporary, but we have broken back below the neck breakaway move. That is not a good technical sign. Every day last week, we had a down day on gold. Silver is no different. Breakdown and barely holding secondary support. The AGQ, which I've been following and trading, look at the way that broke out and then just got hammered back. So I am not a fan of gold and silver, period. I think copper's moving up a little bit. As if you look at FDX, for example, not FDX, sorry. Freeport McMoran, I forgot the symbol already. Anyway, you'll see that that's moving, and so is the SCCO, Southern Copper. Not as strong. And I don't think the market's ready yet in any of the precious metals, quite frankly. So I'm staying away from them. I'm staying away from oil for now. It's just too many other stocks that look good. So let's get to it. AAOI. How about this chart? I'm going to show you a weekly. So here's a stock that they exploded. I remember when this thing ran from single digits to over 100, and then a long 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 wave decline that took several years to develop. Finally, a triple bottom base, a breakout. As you know, we had swings on this one a couple times. This one really did well for us, and then again here. But right now it's in blowout mode, and based on the angle I have here, I'm looking at $40. Now I don't mean right away, and maybe it may never get there, but at least you can look at the top of the channel saying this isn't done yet until it gets to 24. So we've got some room to run in AAOI. ACHR recovers from the pullback, breaks out and flags and popped down on Friday. So I like this one. Probably should be a swing as well, but I put so many swings out recently, I'm hesitating to put any more out. But I will say, if you're interested in a swing, In ACHR, I'm looking at 7.25. That's what it's going to take for me to be more excited about it. And then 10.5, 3/4. Affirm doing very well for us. Not only does it have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the fifth wave is accelerated into a this looks like call it a 1, 2, 3. It is at the top of the channel. We have some room to get up to 50. This is definitely in play. I would put a stop under 36, right across there. And I think, based on what I'm seeing, momentum is very strong in AFRM. ALT, how about this biotech explosive move? Literally in about 2 weeks, it went from 250 on Thursday's high, 863. This is about a 225% gain in 2 weeks. Now you see the reversal bar and a pullback. So careful. Support is now 565, 575, but target is 10 if it continues, or if it stalls and flags in this area. Looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, doesn't it? You get a fifth wave, $10. ALXO, what a move on Friday. Coming through a basically triple top. Exploding with big volume too. About 4 million shares. It's at a resistance level here. Why is that a resistance level? Right there. Might see a little higher towards 1365. I'm going to take this one out. That's not correct. Then I'm looking for near 15. So momentum has this one. The angle of ascent looks something like that. So very bullish chart. AMD, how about that? Multiple wave down channel. It took 6 months to develop. There's your breakout platform pop. Now we're going to test the 132.83 intermediate high, which also comes in coordination with that level too. The all-time highs and the next targets would be 149.50 and then 164.5. AMD looks like the next NVIDIA, if you ask me. Well, we'll see. AMRX, beautiful rising channel, and then multi-month consolidation, which couldn't get through, but it did on Friday. So AMRX might be a swing too. Where to? 6, 6.25, 7.25, 7.5 up in that zone would be your next targets. ANF, probably the strongest retail stock in Wall Street. What? Just in May, the stock was down to 22. Here it is, 78. So when you get a stock that's nearly quadrupled, and it continues to look higher, and there's a flag in there. I don't know what to tell you, but pretty powerful look. The all-time highs are back up here. 07, that's 16 years ago in the mid-80s. I would look for that to get into the 84.5 range before it runs into big difficulty. Don't want to chase something like that, but boy, momentum is strong. EPLS. This V bottom with a platform right there is where we put a swing on it. It went up to the swing target and backed off this, filled that gap, and then ran up and coiled for about 3 months, 2 months. Breakout occurred a week and a half ago. Look at that flag. Folks, if you're an APLS, I'm looking for 74.5, at least. Applied Therapeutics, APLD. A little choppy, but if you look at the angle of ascent that I've drawn in terms of the channel, where's this going? Well, it was a breakout Friday. It looks like it's going to 4.5, 3/4. Apps, based out, broke out. It's been flagging in here. Look at the moving averages curling up and crossing over. This looks like a buy to me. I'm looking for 7.5, 3/4 for the next target, and then maybe 10. Recent IPO ARM formed the inverse head and shoulder type base, broke out, flagged, and popped big time Friday, moving up 5 points or 8%. Next target would be the post IPO high at 68 3/4. You get through that, maybe mid 70s. Arvin with a fantastic week last week. Matter of fact, the last 2 months and a half, that's let's see, 5 weeks. 14, about 14 to 37. Mini base breakout, little flag area, consolidation. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was spectacular. Stock goes from the 22.3 range to the 36.7 range. Is it overbought? You betcha, but it's at resistance, so we may get a pullback. Let's get a better setup on this one, but the long-term target is mid-50s. EUTL, beautiful base, took a year plus to develop, broke out, retested, and popped. Had a really weird day here, probably inventory run by the market makers because they think it's going higher. At least that's my take. Right now, I'm looking for this to develop into a rising channel off of this area. My target's 5 3/4. BBIO, beautiful base, a breakout. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth wave may be beginning. If it gets across the highs, across 36.5, I'd be looking for 43.4 and much more. BLDE, check out this little biotech. Huge, huge drop off. What a wonderful, perfect declining channel connecting all the bottoms. Isn't that nice? Okay, so breakaway gap above the moving averages, they crossed over. Then the pullback occurs. Now this is typical. I see this a lot. If this is wave one and we went from 207 to 395, let's call it $1.85. From this pullback low, add a 185 on and you got 495.5 range. That would be up here. So I'm looking for a retest of 395 and 4.5 and 5. Look at the technicals. As the stock pulled back, the OBV is actually slightly rising and everything else turns neutral. One gap up, particularly on BLD above 340, and we're good to go. BRBR, how about this chart? In 13 months, 20, the Friday's high of 57. A little overbought, and then a reversal bar. Be careful on it, but wonderful long-term chart. CAPT, recent IPO spiked, and now it's doing this. That would be a coil. I wouldn't anticipate a coil. I would wait for this line to be taken out with volume, meaning above 405, maybe you'll see 5 or 6. CBay, tech trader swing, breaks out, lags, extends. Look at this long-term chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth wave is well underway, which could get into the mid-20s before it pulls back. Largest uranium purveyor in the world, I believe, is Cameco. In the last 3 years, this has gone from 6 to 45. In the last 8 or 9 months, it's gone from 24 to 45, based on the angle of ascent and being approaching all-time highs. I have to say my extension targets are 50 and 55. CDNA reversed, popped. We put a swing on this one. It popped up and flagged. Boy, I got to tell you, if it breaks that flag, I'm looking at 11 3/4, 12 up here. Seco, environmental, beautiful long-term chart. And that's a nice little coil in here, narrowing. Your next target is 22. Top of the channel target is high 20s. Cogent, well, Cognite, sorry. Cognite was a tech trader swing here, and it worked until target 1, but then months went by before it did anything. Looking at the overall chart pattern, it doesn't look terrible, but there's a lot of resistance just overhead in the 6 range. You get above that, 7.5 and 8 1/4 are targets. Celebrite, something new I've been following. There's a nice base pattern there, double top breakout right there. Got to the target zone, pull back to the trend line. Ran up and flagged. Target 10. Keep an eye on CLBT. CLF, rumored to be the suitor and acquirer of US Steel. Nice base, breakout flag pop, but then it pulled back again. I still like the overall look, especially if it gets above 18 3/4, 85. Then the target's 20.5 and 22 3/4. Celestica. That's a nice long-term chart, isn't it? Well, look at this big base that goes 20 years and it's broken out above that. Why can't this stock go into the 40s? I think it can, but right now it's only 27. This beautiful rising channel tells me if it continues, we're looking at low 30s. Could be a swing. CLSK, a crypto-related stock, and there's a lot of them, has had a monster month. Literally gone from 345 to 10.5, more than tripled, about tripled. My target's 14.50. Core, educational training services stock. Long downtrend, big base, breakout, retest, coil, pop out, flag, and go. 24 target. Koya, as many of you know, I'm personal friends with one of the guys who did their pre-IPO funding And when it went public, it went from 3 and change and spiked here to 8 and took months to develop, but double bottom popped, wedged, called this a platform. Breakout occurred a week ago. I went from 5 and change to tag 8 again. There's a double top there at 8. Actually, I think pre-market it traded at 9.39, but my next target is 9.25 and 11. CRNX, beautiful base, breakaway gap and a big one, and then flagged. Pull back, we put a swing on this one. It held support here and there. Now it's moving up. 37 and 41 are targets. CRISPR, beautiful pop, breakaway. We put a swing on it. It kept going. It did a nice 3-wave advance and then popped. Boy, on Friday, I don't know what happened, but it ran up. Positive news, I thought, to 77 and got whacked to 61 and change before bouncing, but that's a very negative reversal bar. Be careful with that one. Consolidated water, beautiful rising channel. This stock's gone from mid-teens to mid-30s. In a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move, but the 5th wave may not be completed. If it does complete, channel top target is 41.2. Dava, look at this beautiful base. Double top, breakout, platform, and pop. Now my target's 80 and 95. Just keep an eye on Dava too. Dell popped up. We put a swing on it and then coiled, broke out and ran, but it got hammered back on the earnings report. As long as it holds 65.6, I'm still good with it. I would prefer it held right there at the trend line. The next target is a retest of mid-70s and then low to mid-80s. DraftKings breaks out. We put a swing on it. It did very well and then pull back. It's right on support here. I need it to hold and then go. Retest 39, get up into the 44 range. DMRC, Digimark, based out, broke out from the coil and popped, and then pulled back to test the breakout point back in here. Pop flag or a little mini coil tells me if this pops, it could fly. I also am hearing that Microsoft may be interested. Ultimate target, 48. DRCT, look at this move. Breakaway gap and a big volume pop. It literally went from 2.5 to 1438 in 2.5 weeks. It's a rising flag, which is very bullish. The momentum is strong in this one, but if it breaks, it could break hard. If it does extend, I would look for high teens. Duolingo, a beautiful year-long chart that saw it go from 65 to triple to 226, more than triple. Now this consolidation or coiling type pattern is very bullish to me. If it pops here, I'm looking at 245.50. EDU, one of the strongest Chinese stocks out there. The educational stock has gone from 10 to 80. My momentum target is 95 to 104. ESTC, the beautiful base breakout platform, and then explosive move out of that and a rising flag. This is very powerful. It should be a swing. The target is 130 and 150. In the crypto world, ETHE, you can see the move it's had, measures 24. EXPE, which I haven't been following, but I saw this base and breakout, and I said I wanted to let my people know about it. Your next target is 153. When you get through that, we're looking at 175. Beautiful momentum. EYPT exploded, pulled back, and held for 2 days, so I put a swing on it, and then popped, got up to 24, but backed off. It's still holding the gap. Support is 17.25. Target, high 20s, mid 30s. Bigs broke out. We put a swing on it. It's pulled back in an orderly fashion, but I'm worried that if it gets any lower than that, I don't want this under 6 3/4. If it does that, it could back to 640 or worse. It needs to get going soon. Stay tuned. GBTC, another crypto related, has had a long run in this year alone. December 29th of last year was 7 3/4. Here it is, mid 30s. It's a 5-fold increase. Good momentum at resistance. I'd be a little concerned. Geo popped, pulled back, started to move. We put a swing on it. I believe it was about 8. It's made it up to 10.65. It looks like we're going to our target at 11 and then 12.5. GPS, explosive pop, breakaway move, rising channel, looks like 25 to me. GitLab, long consolidation of the pop from last June, but finally a quadruple top was taken out. It stalled right there, but I think momentum takes this to 70. HRTG, this little low price insurance stock, has gone from literally $1.25 to over 10. So, or at 10, what's the high? 979, I'm wrong. My target though, based on the angle, 12. IDYA popped and wedged, and I put a swing on it a long time ago, but this is back in May. It's also, I believe, one of my big picks from last year. I'll have to double check that. But the bottom line, take a look at the long-term chart. Top of the channel says we go to 34. IMBT explodes, coils for a couple months, breaks out. It's flagging right here. We're looking for a retest of 44, and then we're going into the low to mid 50s. INFN, long downtrend, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down. Reverses with a breakaway gap, pulls back to test the moving averages. For me, creating a new rising channel, which might look like this, which also tells me if we get through this zone right where it is, targets are 5.25 and 6. I like to V-bottom with the platform after breaking a long downtrend. Intel, well, many of you remember back here in April, I believe it was, when it popped out, I put a swing on it, but then it didn't work. Finally, it's been choppy, but moving up. And from that level in the 28 zone, it went to 45, which is my original target. Next target, 51. KNTE, this little low price biotech has gone from mid-teens down to 1. I kid you not, 104. But recently it exploded to 267. And look at that coil. Keep an eye on it. If it pops particularly above 240, it may be off to the races. If it gets across 265, 330, and 4.25 would be targets. The measure move gets me up to 4 or better. KOLD, wow, look at this. As natural gas comes down, this has been rising steadily and it's gone from I'm not kidding, 44.99. Is it done yet? I can see 115, 18. Katos, this aerospace company in a beautiful rising channel near the top now, but the momentum is fabulous. Target 22. LFMD, tech trader swing when it broke out here, it's done very well. From about the 5 range, it's gone up to 8.5. My targets are 10.5, 11, and then high teens. LMB, look at this chart. Tight, beautiful rising channel, then went into a coil, but it popped out. It's flagging. I'm telling you, folks, that Momo is going to take this stock to 60, 60. Logitech, tech trader swing when it popped right there, around 70. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 74.5. It may have been 79, but here it is at 89. My targets were 88 and 98. So we reached target number 1. I'm still looking for more. LRN, the educational stock, took all year to consolidate. There's your breakaway gap, and there's your beautiful run. And this is all-time highs now. Indeed, you can see where it might go. I'm not saying it's going up there, but I think we can see 5 or 10 points more. LTRX, some of you remember when it popped here, I put a swing on it. Well, when I looked back at it, I said that was a mistake. It did not break out technically. It got up right to the breakout point and failed. A couple months later, it broke out. And now I'm looking at this as a breakout of a major base and maybe on its way to 7.75 and 10. Those are my targets for LTRX. Keep an eye. Mara, well, I'm not as fond of this one as I am some of the others, but it certainly has moved up with crypto. And my target has to be around 1920 zone. 1988 to be was a high. We get through that, it's off to the races. MGNX broke out of a base, wedged, popped, flagged, and broke out. Extension target, 10.25.5. Modine, beautiful long-term chart, only interrupted by this pullback in mid-23. There's your breakaway move right there. And what a rising channel this is. Target is 67. Nutanix, one of my favorites. Pop, long coil, breakout, pullback, retest. We put a swing on it there. Went from like the 33 range to the 46 range. It isn't done yet. I'm looking for 54.5. And maybe a takeover. Oscar Health breaks out. We put a swing on it. It moves to the target, and now it's coiling. Next target, near 10. Paramount. Well, you know, popped, wedged, ran up and flagged, popped, and had a pullback flag, and Friday was a big day for it as there's activists involved. I'm looking for 19. Path. UI path, beautiful base, beautiful breakout, nice retest, nice pop on Friday. And should this get over 25.5, I would look for 28.5 and low 30s. PACCAR, look at that chart. Beautiful multi-month consolidation channel or flag, and then the breakout. Extension targets tell me 104 might be a target. VIX-X took a long time to consolidate, but it finally broke out last week, and it did it to a point where it is now about to press the all-time high. And this thing could be in the 60s, folks. Impinj broke back out. I put a swing on it. I like this company. There's your breakaway. Moving averages crossed over. Stock's been moving up steadily. My take is that the stock makes a move into the $100 range, maybe 115. Pinterest starting to accelerate after breaking across this resistance. My target is 37, 38. Palantir, a little concerned about it. When it broke down here, now Friday was a rebound day, but it better follow through because any move below this week's lows, I'd stop on a 17. Target is 20, 23.5. Powell, some of you remember back when it popped here and pulled back, we put a swing on it in the high 70s. Well, it finally made it across 90, $93 on Tuesday. Targeting 105 and 120. Quick, a little junior semiconductor, finally breaks out of a long base and pulls back. But my target is now mid-teens. Ramp, software stock with a beautiful channel and a beautiful base breakout here. Then formed a wedge and popped. Looking for 38 to 40 and maybe mid 40s after that. Sentinel, nice base. Look at that breakaway move on Wednesday. Held the gap on Thursday and moved up Friday. I'm looking now for 25.6 and then 30 on momentum. Saba, excuse me. I really like the overall look. Big downtrend. Left shoulder complex, head and the right shoulder complex. Either that or a V bottom with a wedge or a cup and handle, whatever you want to call it. The bottom line is Friday was a big day for it. As it popped 372 or 18% and a pickup in volume. I'm now looking for 28 and 32. Shopify, breakaway gap, flag, breakout, channel up, pullback retest, right there near key support. If it holds this level, which I think it will, I'm then going to look for mid 80s and mid 90s. SKS, Skechers, ever since they introduced their new sneaker, this thing gone vertical. 46 to 60, my target is 68. SLMO popped and pulled back. We put a swing on it. Took a while to develop, but boy, it's moved nicely. From 21 and change to 37. And my target short term is 45, 48. SMCI, as you know, has been a big runner along with NVIDIA this year, but it's gone into a major consolidation mode. As long as it doesn't break down, we need to see this break out above 315. Then you're on your way to 350, 370. Snap, big base formed after a long downtrend, going back more than about 15, 16 months. It finally broke out last week. It's got a tight rising channel. Momentum says 17. Snow, a new tech trader swing. I just like this look overall. And what I read about it fundamentally is huge, but I only care about the technicals. It is up against resistance here. Should it be able to break out above 193.4, I think you're going to see 207, 220, 245, something like that. Spotify, beautiful rising channel, broke out last week and is flagging. I think this has more to go. Looking for 218 and 250. Scholar Rock popped the wedge here. We put a swing on it. It went vertical. That was a nice move. Literally went from 12 to 19.5 in about 7 days. Overbought, yeah. Top of the channel, yeah. Fifth wave, maybe. We'll see. This has got a really strong pattern, but I'd be seller here for at least half to 2/3 of my position. SSNT exploded Monday, pulled back and wedge the rest of the week. Something to watch. The volume on the breakout day was only 41 million shares with a huge gap. Indicative of more, it might be, but look at all the spikes up in that range. If it fails here, it'll fail miserably. Keep a tight stop under Thursday's low. That would be under 825 or so. STNE breakout, we put a swing on it. It's running up beautifully. It continues to run. The South American software stock is in a beautiful rising channel. More importantly, it broke out of this big 1.5-year long base and may be heading towards 19.5 and 26. SYM, well, after the big run up, it had a 3-wave corrective and then a retest. It broke out with a breakaway gap and now it's platforming. This is a tech trader swing. I didn't like that nasty pullback Wednesday, but should it get back above 58.75, I would look for mid 60s, low 70s. TAL, and the other educational stock that we track from China, after breaking out and pulling back, looks like it's setting up for a move to 13.14. Task, I like the long downtrend. I like the pop above trend, a long coil. Keys are getting to 13.75, but the measure move tells me 15 and 17 might be targets. That could be a swing, keep an eye on it. TAST, Carol's Restaurant Group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves, and then that, and then it popped out. If it gets above 805, you might see 11 or 12. DGTX, big gap down here, finally broke through it, flagged, and then popped. I think it's going to fill the gap, or at least attempt it, 19 and a half. There's a huge reversal tail, and then a mini coil, excuse me, or pennant, popped and broke out and flagged and popped again. I just like the way this looks. I think we're going to 40. Uber, well, as you know, I've been high on Uber ever since it broke out in January, February in the high 20s and low 30s. And then coiled, popped, breakaway gap, ran up to my targets in the high 40s, consolidated for 2-3 months, and it broke out again and went vertical from 40 to 62, basically. So this is at its target for me, short term. UEC, another junior uranium stock, now looks like an $8 potential. UIS popped and broke out. We put a swing on it, this junior tech stock, formerly Sperry Rand and Burroughs merger. Looks like if it tests and takes out 6, we're looking at 8.5. UPST, big run up, sharp pullback, but it broke back out. I put a swing on it because I think it's going to test the low 40s and maybe even low 50s. VERX, Vertex, software application stock. Took months to develop a consolidation and then broke out. Looks to me like it's headed to the low 30s. Viking, popped, we put a swing on it and then went right to the target number 1, near 20, 19 and a half. I'd like to see a better setup, but my target says 25. VRNS Veronis, one of my old favorites from a long time ago, back in here, has recovered dramatically. Broke out of the coil here, formed a wedge, popped again sharply, and then ran up. Since that day, it's gone from 31 to 45. I can see this stock making a run at 50. BRT, another very strong stock. This one in electronic components. Acts like a stock that has a lot more to go. My target is mid 50s. BSAT, long downtrend, pop, coil, breakout. So the wedge broke on Friday, so I'm looking for more. Targeting 29 and 33. VST in the utility sector. What a chart. First of all, a nice base, breakout, wedge, pop, another wedge, and a flag. It just looks to me like this isn't going to be done until it gets into the low 40s. Wolf, perhaps inverse head and shoulders, but it's certainly a base. The moving averages have crossed over. It popped out and flag. Looking for 49 and a half, everyone. 10 points. That's it on the long side. I'm just going to show you a couple of shorts and we're going to finish up for today, folks. There's only 3 or 4 things I want to show you. I have a lot of work to do on the short side, but these jumped out at me. INTT, which has been on my list for a while, broke a trend from the bear wedge and then came down from the bear flag. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a big 5th wave down. You know what I talk about when I say 5th waves are always less reliable? So the bottom line is that the 5th wave is less reliable because you basically are so far off the high at this point, 27 down to 11 and change. And now the retest tells me, oh, this may go lower, but it's less reliable. Still, my target is 10. CHX in the oil and gas group looks like very negative if it breaks here. And it was a pretty ugly day on Friday for this one too, finishing at the lows. So for me, my target is now mid-20s. WMT Walmart got slammed, bounced back to resistance, couldn't get through, and then it's made lower lows. So this looks like a top to me. Amazingly, Walmart's targets are now 145, 138, and 130. And finally, ACLS, I just want to show you that it's still very negative despite the market bounce. And if it breaks here, maybe headed to 105 and 90. Let's look at the longs, the shorts, the technicals, and the Nasdaq 100 generals. Take a look at this thing and review it carefully and prepare yourself for next week, and we're going to need it. But it was an eventful, bullish week for the markets. Let's see if there's a follow through or not. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.